transitioning to, high school sports, and how did you get recruited? You didn't. We really would want to know like how you got recruited and you playing soccer and all that. How was it being a woman athlete? Sorry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna go back. So if you've already heard this, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna
That's
start from
fine.
the beginning.
Go ahead.
Okay, so as I was saying, like my childhood was very like external. So basically, like I was getting a lot of self-worth and value from my external achievements, from being a great student or a great athlete, or anything that I could get from people that would make fill my void, make me feel like I was like worthy and had a purpose. So I was very externally motivated growing up, and that led to a lot of accomplishments in athletics. I was always on the varsity sports teams. I actually was a pitcher in softball for years, and thought I was going to be a Division I pitcher, but ended up switching because pitching got to be too stressful for me my sophomore year. And I was like, I want to play soccer. And I had played soccer when I was little, but I didn't take it seriously until my sophomore year in high school. And I decided to switch. And I was like, I'm going to play soccer. I'm going to get a scholarship that way. So I just really dove into club soccer, and I got a trainer, and I was part of like the way I got recruited, I was part of the state championship team. So I was on a very competitive club team, and that we always had scouts that would come and watch us. I had 3 big scholarship opportunities, to 2 in California, and then the 1 in Pennsylvania and at Pitt, University of Pittsburgh. And I had 75% plus books and tuition, and so I took it because it was the best offer, and also because when I went on my recruiting trip, I fell in love with the coffee shops and the live music and the good food, and the people were really friendly. So I just fell in love with the campus and the experience. So I decided I was going to go play soccer at University of Pittsburgh. Very competitive. I know that you were in the world of sports too, Ben. Very, very competitive experience. So I was super proud of myself when I got that scholarship. I was like, yes, everything I've worked for, like victory. So anyway, when I got that scholarship, and then like I said, when I went for the first 2 years, my freshman year, I broke my shin in a slide tackle. My sophomore year, I came back, did a whole bunch of rehab, and then tore my ACL. So it was back-to-back injuries. I was really good friends with the trainers. But I was like, I was not getting any accolades for anything. Like I wasn't doing great in soccer. My grades were C's. I was kind of attending class. Like I was actually, now that I look back on it, I think I was experiencing depression, but I didn't know at the time what was happening. So at that point I didn't decide, it wasn't a conscious choice, but I grasped onto the idea of weight loss, and I started obsessively counting calories and making sure that I burned as many. I read all sorts of nutrition books, and I developed an eating disorder. I was very obsessed with everything that I ate and how I looked and my weight, and it became very unhealthy to the point where you could see all my bones, my hair was falling out. I lost 35 pounds. So I came home, and when I came home, my parents were shocked because they didn't know, they hadn't seen me, and they were like, what is wrong? Like, what is happening right now? Like, this is not okay. You're not okay. And I was, I defended it, of course, because in my mind, I was okay. I was like, I'm fine. Like, this is good. I'm losing weight. It's great. It's going wonderfully. But I knew deep down that everything was not okay. So eventually my parents convinced me that you are not okay and you can't go back to Pennsylvania because you're sick and we need to address this sickness. So I surrendered the scholarship, and I went back to ASU, and I majored in psychology because I was studying so much about myself. And at this time I had started to really study like spirituality, and I got into yoga. And this was really my introduction to yoga because I went to a class, and I just remember sitting there, and I remember I cried. Actually, there was a pretty intense experience. One of the teachers had said something about internal compassion, like learning to love yourself, and it just hit home with me. I realized that I didn't have a lot of self-love. My inner critic, when I started to learn how to observe my thoughts in meditation, my inner critic was really loud, and it was actually really self-abusive. So this yoga and spiritual journey really helped me to see that. And that all started right in the early 20s, right as I was going through this eating disorder and trying to recover from that. And yoga really just gave me the tools to be compassionate with myself, well, it started the process, and to learn to observe what was happening inside me and inside my body, and to connect with something and a love that was greater than something I ever knew. So it became, I mean, I know a lot of people go to religion for that, and that's fine. Yoga became my religion. It became something that really, that helped me to connect to a source that was bigger than myself, that helped me to understand that I wasn't all those accomplishments, that I wasn't the things that I had achieved, and that I was something so much greater than that and so much bigger than that. So that started in my early 20s. And at the same time around, I kind of transitioned from an eating disorder into smoking a lot of marijuana, because it was introduced to me as a way for me to start eating again, and to calm my anxiety. And I wasn't huge on the whole chemical, like taking any anti-anxiety pills or antidepressants, although I'm not opposed to them if that's the route you decide to go. But for me, I wanted to do something more natural, and this was introduced to me, and I grabbed onto it, and it helped. I started eating again, and I started to gain weight, and my anxiety decreased. But I also formed an unhealthy connection with marijuana, because even though I wasn't really addicted to it, you know, chemically, I was addicted to it psychologically. Like, I needed it in order to get through the day, or to get through any emotionally painful or triggering experiences I was having. I had to have it. So I was very psychologically addicted to it. I was still doing my spiritual work and doing my yoga practice, and it was just kind of growing. Like, I was slowly kind of growing into that and learning more about myself. And this was about 5 years ago. I went through another period where I became super, like, I have kids, and I didn't want to be connected to marijuana like that. And I knew that I didn't want that, but I couldn't figure out how to move past it. I couldn't figure out how to let it go. So I did get into therapy, which was very helpful, but I also found this 500-hour yoga therapy program that I'm almost done with. But I started it about 4.5 years ago, and it took me into the world of somatics, which is, you know, journeying inside physically and discovering places inside your body where trauma or tension, it may be stored, and learning how to go into it and to release it. And so that was extremely impactful for me. And then also doing inner child work. And those things were really the pivoting point for me when I was able to do the work there and to understand the root, or the core wounding, I guess is another term that you used for that. Then I was able to, I honestly, well, that in tandem with learning how to regulate my nervous system through the breathing, through more yoga, but it was more restorative yoga and not so much of the flow yoga that people are used to seeing. It was more yin-based yoga or breathing-based yoga, or just simple, like, mindful movements in the body, like moving your shoulder and being connected to just the movement in the shoulder joint. Just simple mindful movements. So that transformed me to the next level, where there's really no need for marijuana at this point, because to me, like, I can do it myself. I don't need an external substance or, you know, anything besides the tools that I already have. So that, when I discovered that, I like, this is the whole vision of the business that I'm creating at this point. And what I'm putting my clients through is dropping in and learning how to regulate that nervous system, and then doing the exploration inside to see, you know, what are the core wounds, or what are these inner child voices that we need to discuss and to really, like, uncover, so that we can move, you know, past and through those blockages. So that's really, like, the core of the business that I'm starting to create now. And that's the Cliff Notes version.
Wow. Well, hearing your story, I'm just struck by, you know, how fortunate it was when you had the eating disorder and returned home, that your parents, you know, took a stand, and which doesn't always happen, and said, you are ill and we're not letting you go back. Because sometimes parents can be equally attached to your achievement, your scholarship, and, you know, and not necessarily to you know, not intentionally